like, okay. All right, everybody. We want to welcome everybody tonight to Heart with Dan and Angela.
Yep.
And we got a guest with us tonight, Kerry
Davies.
And she's an artist. And we're going to talk tonight about how to keep positive in the face of negativity. It seems like, to me, like negativity is becoming the norm. It seems like people feel they have a right to just, bitch all day. I've been in a lot of groups, and it just seems like I don't think the people know that they're being negative. I don't think they see that their negative is leading to sadness, and their sadness is leading to victims. And so I wanted to discuss it tonight. How do we pull out? I mean, there's a certain part of us that's justified, like all of us in here, me, Angela, and Kerry Kay, we've been through religious abuse. And we could whine about it for the rest of our life. We really could say they stole all of our life. They did this to us. They did this to us. There's groups we could join. I don't want to mention them, but we could join them and we could just go in there and pound and pound and pound. But I don't know. I was going to ask tonight, I guess the question I want to sort out and ask is, when is enough enough? When does it go from sort of, the needing to communicate what seems to be negative, and when does it turn into becoming a burden? When does it start hurting us? When does it start becoming sadness? When does it start ingraining, in the neural path in our brain, and start to, we become that. We're now identified with that. When people see us, here comes the story. Here comes Dan. He's going to tell me about his 40 years of Jehovah's Witness and how they stole his life and killed his parents. So that's just one example. There's tons of them. There's but I guess tonight I just wanted to ask, that's the question I wanted to ask tonight was, how do we pull out? I mean, it feels normal. It feels natural. We're getting validated from other people, and it kind of just goes on and on,
Yeah, exactly.
And so Kerry, why don't, if you could just give us a little, tell us who you are, where you've been, where you're from, and, that sort of thing, just a little bit, just so people know who we're talking to on the other end,
Exactly.
Hey, my name's Kerry, and I'm from California. And I grew up in the same religion that you guys did, but I left many years ago, in the 90s. And where am I at? I'm in life enjoying it.
All right.
Nutshell. I think that's a good way to just set it up. Like what you were trying to bring out, you need to get through the oh, this happened to me sort of thing, and it caused this and that and that. But then there comes a time when you need to ask yourself, how do I get out of that slump of negativity and depression, and how do I move forward?
Yes, right. Exactly.
And that's a step where you go forward and you're going to take a step back. You're going to go forward and you're going to take a step back. And you just keep on doing it. And you're going to slide back and you're going to go forward and you're going to slide back. But every time you slide back, climb back up again.
Amen. And
that can take, and that could be done through several ways. You find something that you like to do, whether it's reading, whether it's painting, whether it's a hobby, whether it's sports. Find something that interests you and do that.
Yeah.
Find something that brings you joy and do that.
Yes.
And you're going to slip back, but by reaching out and manifesting those things that cause you happiness, when you reach for that, you're going to manifest that back into your life.
Yeah. What love you put out comes back,
Right.
And when you get, I believe this too, is that when you put love out, that it automatically does come back, and you don't get more. I believe this. you don't give it, you're not going to get more back. And meaning
Right.
you're not going to grow in that gift. I believe that God has it set up that way. So
Yeah.
the more we give, the more that it just comes back, and we are building our own selves up in that joy and in that love, whatever it is that we're seeking. You know,
Yeah.
so we got to give it away first. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to give yourself that self-love.
Yeah.
We weren't taught a lot of that. So
No,
obviously
Yeah.
you were giving things, giving away, but we weren't concentrating on what was good for you, that love within. And
yeah.
it, by doing those things that you are interested in doing, it's healing. For me, it's painting.
Yes.
Create. I like to write. So when with my two hobbies or things that I like to do, at first when I wrote horrible things. But those were the things that were hurting me, and I needed to get them out on the paper.
Amen to that.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. And I did a lot of crying. A lot of crying, but a lot of growth. I go back and I read it and I'm like, oh, some of it's okay for other people to read, and then some of it is personal.
Yeah, exactly. I
Right.
so
So,
agree. And
Yeah.
and I feel like that people that like my sister, all my sisters and of course myself was in the Worldwide Church of God, which is Jehovah's Witness, Jewish combined. That's what they taught us. And it was interesting because I came to realize that the only thing that was going to help one of my sisters in particular to get free was if she would get herself heavily involved in something she really believed in and could really soak her teeth into, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Otherwise, she was just going to not have that purpose and just keep falling back into the hole. Do you know what I mean? You got to keep yourself preoccupied for a while and busy. I really do feel like that. And it's funny, when I've been through some of the hardest times in my life, I found that God gave me something really busy to do that I kind of felt like, come on, Lord, this is too much for what I'm going through. But it was just the perfect thing. You know, it kept me from going down in that horrible pit. So I just think that when we are feeling in the pit, and when I have felt really badly in the pit, I knew to go serve somehow. So like I signed up at the nursing home, and I'd take my guitar and they would hire me actually, and I would sing. I would do something where I was outside of nature a lot. That really helped me a lot. But they'll and sing. You just sing. That was what I was good at. And even if I was down in the pits, I could still sing. And you know, and the people would smile, and I made them happy, and that made me feel like I had a reason to be alive, like I had done something good that day. And it could be something as simple as go pitch in and help the neighbor with some yard work or something. I don't know. When we do those things, it takes us out of the pit. So Dan and I were discussing how just getting a distraction. That's the word.
yeah.
Distraction when you're feeling like you're wanting to go into that pit in the mind pit, right? Because that's what's driving everything. And I just wanted to talk about that, just distracting yourself. So we just mentioned, just by getting involved in something that maybe hurts because you wrote and now it's some pain coming out. It might be a poem for somebody, but artwork that comes from the depth and the core of you. So does writing music, and there's other things, gardening. When you put your love into it, there's lots of things, cooking for other people, having people over and doing it with all your heart. I don't know, there can be just such joy in like making a nice meal for somebody. For me, that can be a real joy if I let it be. And I used to be really good at that. It was one of my favorite things to do, that I felt like I was doing something really awesome, making a special memory, right music and the right temperature and the right everything decorated just so, and it just made everything so perfect. And what a joy that can be. So I do think distractions are important, for sure.
Yep.
Right.
And I was thinking, I couldn't help but think about, there's a time for everything, and I was thinking about, like the 12 step, there's a time that you can go into the 12 step. If they got religious abuse, they got, Al-Anon, alcohol, everything. And I've been in those groups, and I've had a lot of healing in those groups at the earlier stages. And it was kind of a bitching fest, but it was also, you were hearing somebody else tell your same story. And you were going, yeah, that's my story. And, you know, you were kind of getting some healing, but you never stayed in the story. It was like, now I'm going to believe in a power greater than me. Now I'm going to say I'm sorry. It was a progressive thing, right? That
Yes,
you went
yeah.
through.
Yeah.
But I got to say this. I've been out of the witnesses for what, 23 years?
Yeah.
23 years. And I can tell you that I started doing activism because I got mad because I saw my brother, you know, falling apart. My two brothers, you know, the one that just died, and my oldest brother, I saw him, he's falling apart. His wife almost died. And so I came back into activism saying, you know, you're not gonna, you governing body, you're not gonna kill the rest of my family. I'm gonna be the one that stands up. And we did all these videos, but it was weird because I had already healed, I had already forgiven, I had already moved on, I had already created a new life, I'd already done this, but something triggered me when I saw my brothers and the mental illness and the slow brain and the dumbed down, and I thought, you took my grandmother, you took my father. And so I went back with this fury, but it just created more fury, more anger. You know, then I was doing videos and my face was red and the governing body. And I'm talking about stuff that's 24 years old.
That he'd overcome, really, for the most part.
And unfortunately, I see a lot of people, you know, like this video is going to go up on YouTube because it seems like people either join these groups where they get in there and it's, you know, hate, you know, they did this to me, or they end up getting into alcoholism, a lot of alcoholism in the witnesses, and they drown. I mean, they just go down the tubes. They go on disability and it's over. And so I can't tell you how many people I've saw that haven't chosen to get out, or haven't been able to get out, or don't even know they're in the negativity, you know? So they go on these rants and they don't realize their life is passing them by. And here you guys are talking about, you know, your talents, you know, you got talents that we don't even know of. I discovered I had talents too for writing and painting and different things, you know, not to the level of everybody else, but it was amazing when I discovered them, and it totally changed my life. And I was like, wow, I'm somebody. I'm not just a throwaway junk piece of crap that the Watchtower told me I was. And I don't think a lot of people ever get to this, guys. I'm seeing lots and lots and lots of people. And I think some of it might be a lack of education because we weren't educated. I know lots of witnesses who've never read a book. You know, I don't even know if they can read. I couldn't read when I graduated. I mean, it was bad. I went to one of those schools where they said, if you just show up for class, we'll pass you. And so I passed. I couldn't put sentences together, and it was a real trip. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I just think that forgiveness thing. Do you remember that church we went to, Paul and Cherie? Was it Cherie? Anyway, she's an amazing woman, amazing. And she taught us in a class one time that you forgive, and sometimes things can come up and trigger that memory. And then you're back needing to forgive all over again because the anger is coming all back again. And so I think we need to realize that when we get triggered and something reminds us of that, and we are angry with that person again. Okay, so what she said, we have to go and forgive it again. And then we're back to where we were. It's not hard, but we just have to do that forgiveness work once again, however many times that we have to do it. Otherwise, then, like Dan and I have experienced, when you start talking about all the negativity, you fall into the negative vein of things, and it starts to creep into every aspect of your entire life. So we got to nip it in the bud fast when we start to see ourselves going down in that negative pit. I mean, I've seen my mom, she's still like Worldwide Church of God, only it's called United Church of God now, where she goes. It's lots of splinter groups now. But she starts to get her head above water, it seems like, and she gets excited, and I'm starting to get like, yes, she's grasping a hold of what I like, you know, what I believe in. And then all of a sudden something happens negative, and then she goes like back to her safety place. Do you know what I'm saying? Where the beliefs are safe. It's what I've always believed. And when things are bad, she goes back to her place of safety, and it's negative. It's really in a negative place. And then I just I just cringe, you know, and I'm so sad. I don't know what to do because I can't really fix it. But that's interesting how when we get in, like out of the box, and we start discovering things, our talents, what we think maybe is a change in belief, and we're excited about it. And then all of a sudden something happens, we get scared, we go running back. And
Yeah.
I don't know. We just do that. I've said it before. I call it the dance. So we do have to expect that. But one other thing though, too, and it's that we've been taught a certain way. The Jehovah's Witnesses programmed us to believe that what is going to be good for you is to go and do pioneering. This is your dream. This is your life. This is your purpose. And this is all there is to your purpose. And everybody's to do the same thing. There's not any variety. Maybe you get to handle the mics or whatever, Worldwide Church of God. It's, just make sure that you're keeping the Sabbath day and you're keeping those holy days and you're eating the right foods, clean and unclean, and you're good to go. That's all we got to do is do that. And we'll be in the kingdom of God. No need to do anything else. Time is short. It's almost over. God's coming back any minute, any minute. It was the same thing in my growing up church. And so we don't aspire any higher. We're just pioneers. We're just door knockers. We're not really, they don't inspire anything. That's the gift that God gave each and every one of us. It's very unique. That's the same across the board. Same in my church. Everybody's keeping the holy days. Everybody's keeping the Sabbath. Everybody's not eating the clean and unclean foods.
You know what the talk is called that her brother gives? A sermonette. We gave the 5-minute talk there called sermonettes.
Yeah, we call it sermonette.
It's almost identical.
It really is. It really, really is. And somebody comes up and does a song. We call it special music. Always when somebody came up and did a special song. And in between, so the sermonette would happen, and then I think it was the song and then the sermon. But I think that if anybody's watching who's now ex-Jehovah's Witness or ex-Worldwide or ex any cult of any kind, just know that it's a shame that, like, even the Mormon church, they tell you that this is what you're going to do. This is where you're going to serve. And you don't get to say, well, I don't want to do that. I'm good at this, and I have a degree in that, actually. And they're like, no, you're going to go serve it in the clothes pantry that we have, the Deseret, and that's where you're going to serve. And that lady that we know, this lady, she had a degree in something wonderful, and they said, no, that you're going to serve there. And so she didn't ever develop that part of her life, and she's still doing that to this day, or maybe retired. And it's like, we have to follow what's in our heart, I believe. And we begin to know, look, I really, really love whatever it is, something I really love. And I think we have to go for it. It might be, I love ballroom dancing. I really, really do. I don't know what it is about it, but when I do that, I have a certain joy that comes out. And when I am singing in a very meaningful way and inspiring people through that singing, I just have a joy in my heart. And that's my special gift. But it could be so many things for so many people, even just something that you think would be minor. Like I said the other day, our trash man in the mountains, he would always put everything just so perfectly, and he'd always wave to you and made everybody just feel so good when you saw him. And Christmas time, everybody was taping gifts to the top of the trash can on the closest day to Christmas because he made everybody so happy. That is a gift. And so I don't think that it's good that our churches have told us that all I am is a pioneer. All I am is a rule follower of Jehovah, keeping the law, the Jewish law and whatnot. That's all I am. Mic handlers, whatever. That's not all we are. That is a lie. I say from the pit of the bottomless pit. And I don't think that's good. And I think we need to begin like Kerry Kay. Well, she's an inspiration to me. I mean, she's always got something she's sharing out on the internet, out on Facebook, Instagram, somewhere where she's sharing her beautiful art or something cool that she's developing or creating, whatever it is. And always, I don't know, it's like God has just completely taken her joy and creativity and taken it to a new level. And how do we get the joy back, you guys? I think it's when we just say yes to something that we love and then go for it and do it and figure out a way to serve in that way. And I'm telling you, the joy comes. It's what pulled me out of the pit of hell when I was so depressed. I wanted to die. I just didn't think I wasn't worth anything to anyone. But I was, though. Even if everyone gave up on me, I still was. I had some talent. I had some gifts that make people smile. So I think that's what we got to do, and distract ourselves.
That's right.
And what about the mind control? Should we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Kate, what do you think about mind control? What do you do to mind control?
Oh, I ignore it.
That's good.
You watch the news or
Well, there's
anything like?
when I realized, well, they wanted to mold you supposedly to protect you and control, so they would control your mind so that you would follow them. However, it's not always good. um because that's not a way of growth. Because people are on different levels of growth, spiritually, mentally, they emotionally, and physically. So you can't control everybody to be in the little boxes of the same. So to be honest with you, I rebelled from it when I started to know that I was growing out of it. And so I went through quite a rebellious period in my life. And it was good. I may not have made all the best decisions, but they were good for me at the time. And they say it's for a protection, right? This mind control. But yeah, I had a hard time with that.
Did you ever have a hard time thinking when you got out? I know I couldn't think right when I got out. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what my talents were. I had no idea who I was. I just thought I was a dumb worker. When I got out and went out in the world, I was flat on my face. I didn't know I had. Did you ever have anything like that where you had your thinking really wasn't working? I was so used to saying, what's the watchtower say? What's the governing body say? What's the society
Yeah.
say? Did you have any of that?
Well, when I started to grow out of the box, so to speak, I started to feel guilty for it. So I had this inner conflict going on, and until I realized that inner conflict was basically my own dark night of the soul, and then basically I had my answer come within, not master within. When I had that awakening, I knew at that moment that I rose above it. So no matter what, the mind control or whatever was going on, and I had that connection, it was at that moment, I was unshakable, completely unshakable. It's like when you know, you know.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter anymore what any man said, because I had my answer directly from that consciousness.
Source.
From the source.
So when I was talking about mind control, what I meant was your mind being transformed by the renewing of it. And so, in other words, when these thoughts come of, like you said, some guilt or whatever, then how did you deal with that? Like, I'm surely that you realize that you need to talk to yourself and
yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Well, what happened to me was, how did I deal with it? I had to hit rock bottom before I could deal with it. So I had that extreme guilt. I had that extreme I'm not good enough. Jehovah hates me. Jehovah's going to kill me. Yeah. And I prayed and prayed and prayed, and I started to do my own mantras and praying to Jehovah. Jehovah help me. Jehovah help me, because I really thought I was going to die. But then he stepped in. And that was it. Higher consciousness.
Yeah, I remember you said something about that when you almost died.
Yeah. So what did I do about it? I listened. I went within, I got quiet, and I listened. And it went on for days. And when I came out of it, of my awakening, I continued to listen. I continued to get quiet and listen. And when the inspiration moved me, I moved. When I had a intuition to do this or that, or to go here or go there, I listened and I would get an answer. I searched and I got answers. I searched and I found. I just kept testing and it kept answering. And I have gone through my life since that time. Late 90s, happened in the late 90s. And the cosmos, Jehovah, the higher consciousness, whatever your concept of God is. I listen, I get quiet and I listen. And it moves me, or he moves me, or she moves me, well, however you want to interpret that, into the direction for me. And I think that's the key, for me.
Yeah. And do you say to the best and highest good of everyone involved or anything else like that? Just curious.
Say that again.
And like, do you say like, I just pray that it's the best thing for me and everyone else that's involved. That saying that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. When I get quiet, I have an inner dialogue going on.
Yeah.
An inner dialogue. And I'm just very quiet and I'm asking inner dialogue and I'll get my answer.
That's beautiful.
And I go with it. But I have to get real quiet before that happens. And that's the meditation or prayer.
Yeah.
Prayer, but it's that inner dialogue. It's the same.
Yeah.
So I listen and it moves me to do a certain thing or to read a certain thing. And sometimes it's not what I think it is, but it's personal.
Yeah, it is.
Because every person's
Need
is unique.
Yeah.
And they're going to get, you're experiencing for God, for him in this life, and experiencing, and no two persons' experience will ever be exactly alike. So to be in mind control, to think a certain way, to be a certain way, to do a certain way, isn't the way, because everyone's is different. And so for them to direct persons, oh, you're going to do the mic, so you're going to do this, or you're going to do that because that's what we want. Yeah, that's what the man wants. But is it what the creator wants? Get quiet, listen, and see what he wants. Because even Jesus said the answers would come when you go within.
Yeah.
And he talked about that. He was teaching his disciples to meditate and listen and walk the walk.
Exactly. So, yeah. It's funny because there's some other writings and talks about Jesus doing a lot of getting away and praying and meditating with the disciples and some other people from other countries that were masters or leaders of their countries, but they spent days just sitting and saying nothing, just sitting with God, and then they finally break the silence after several days, even as long as a week. And can you imagine what would come of that? Man, oh man, oh man.
We're afraid to sit still for more than a day. We can work a job that'll almost kill us. And we're like, oh my God, we didn't get on a podcast. Oh my God, we're not doing nothing with our life. We're the other way. We're like too anxious, and I was that's one thing that you brought out. It's okay to be still, to just stop, because, I felt like I had so much catching up to do. And that's another thing I see with a lot of witnesses is they're trying to catch up. They want some prosperity.
I lost 40 years. Now what am I going to do? I gotta hurry up. I'm getting old.
And like us, we spend hundreds of thousands literally getting ripped off by trying to do this and do that and spending money on this and throwing money at that and throwing money.
In other words, going ahead of God and thinking
Yeah.
that you think that's what he wants you to do. It seems obvious that he wants you to do that when it's not what he wants you to do.
Yeah.
You know, and we spun our wheels a lot and done a lot
I
of,
think
yeah.
we all did.
Yeah.
We did. And that was one of the things that I learned when I woke and I had my experience, and then I started to actually listen to God. It didn't matter anymore, because you live in the moment and not for next week or your pioneer hours or whatever. It's now. You're here now, in right now, right at this moment, not yesterday and not tomorrow. Now, what are you doing now?
And enjoying everything now.
Right. I just, at that moment, you don't have to achieve all that other is just riffraff stuff. That's just confetti.
Yes.
But what are you doing? How are you at peace now?
Yeah.
Can you be quiet now and be at complete peace without worry, fear, guilt, shame, whatever it is? Know that you have access now, not in the future.
Well, why wait, right? Why wait?
Why wait? Get that relationship now.
Yeah, you know, there's a saying that says happiness is found not at the end of the road, but along the way. I used to have that
Yes.
right by my ironing board. So back in the day when you ironed a lot, I had a lot every day I ironed. But that's the saying I had right above me when I was doing the ironing. Happiness is found along the way, not at the end of the road. And it's true.
It's true. Have you ever thought too, well, if there's this hope and Armageddon is supposed to happen, right? Well, what are you doing with the time now? What's God's purpose now? If they think that that is supposed to happen then why worry about it?
Yeah.
It's told us not to worry about it.
Right.
Sufficient it each day.
Yeah.
For each day, for that day, not to worry about what's going to happen then. I mean, you have to prepare for things, yes.
That's you can.
Right, but in the moment, experience and be a good person now, and be good to humanity now, not in the future, not be judgmental. Oh, all those people are going to die anyway. How do you know?
Right. Right. Kerry, you know, all this crap going on in the world that you have to fight hard to not watch too much of it. You know, how do you
I don't worry too much about what's happening, because I understand that each person, we're all in this game of it. We're all in this world, and we're all playing these parts. We're doing our thing, right? We all are experiencing and helping everybody else on their journeys. So we come in and out of people's lives for a purpose. We help them grow. They help me grow. We're all rising and growing emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Physically, we get older and we die. It's a cycle. It's a natural law.
Yeah.
We're here to help each other in humanity. We're here to make life better. Yes, if things are bad, we should make better decisions culturally in society. But there are some things that certain people on this planet need to learn, and they're here to learn it. I believe that.
I do too. I do too.
And maybe the people that we see on the news a lot and things are happening, apparently they have some growing up to do. That's why I like to put it. They have some things to learn. And so do the people who are watching. So what do? We try to make things better. And each society is going to handle that a little bit differently. And as things change and mankind evolves, things get better, hopefully. but it's all an educational process.
It is. And no, my mom, she just cannot keep herself off of the internet, off the YouTube, off the TV. And she just gets all these new things to worry about. It. I always say it's like feeding from the table of demons. And I'm like, Mom, please, but I can't always say that. But when I get an opportunity, sometimes I'll say that because it just makes her go nuts. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And I'm like, okay, so what if that you just said does happen? Like, let's just say, oh, they're saying that the banks are going to close, and then all you could, I don't know, you have a million kind of things you can start, freaking out about. But you gotta put all that into check and into proper perspective, and remembering and telling yourself that God is with me. I'm not alone. My I am presence is with me. The God is within me, and I'm not alone in this. And there are lessons to be learned, and we all have many to learn. And but to not freak out. But I think it's easy for anybody to freak out about that kind of stuff,
Yeah, I find that I just turn it off and wait a week and then see what happens. We're bombarded because of social media and because of the internet. We see things that we normally in other times we wouldn't have seen unless we picked up a newspaper. Until you picked up a newspaper, you didn't know.
No, I know it.
Things that were going on.
I know.
Now we just scroll through it, and it's a little bit unsettling, but it's all right there. But if you were to put your phone down and then look around you, how is it affecting you then?
Exactly.
What if you were standing in the forest and in the snow was coming in, but down in that city down there, they're having a riot, but you don't know anything about it, except you better cut that wood or you're going to freeze.
Right. I love that too.
So it's all coherent to your circumstances, but because of our society now, we're bombarded, and it's really making everybody freak out in the head a little.
Yeah, because they used to be out in the farm doing the farming work and whatnot. And then maybe, just maybe, once every couple months, somebody would drive through your property, and then you'd catch up on everything, or you'd have to go into town to get a few supplies that you couldn't normally get. And you'd hear the rumors, or you'd pick up some message from back east or something, and you'd pick up a few little things, and then off you go again. And you don't know anything more for another several months.
Here's an interesting tidbit. I was looking at some writings the other day for a project that I'm writing right now. And my third great grandmother, was it my third? Yeah, no, my second great grandmother was on a trip, and she had all this anxiety, and she couldn't wait to get her mail when she was in London. She had been on this round the world trip, right? And she finally gets her mail after waiting months. She didn't know if her family was okay, right?
Wow.
But you understand, this is 1924?
Wow.
So she had to wait. She had to be content and trusting the universe that her family was okay until she got those letters. And I looked at that and I went, and here we are bombarded. We're sitting here stalking our relatives on social media to make sure that they're okay. We're texting them real quick. But just 100 years ago, they had to wait months to find out if the family was okay.
Can you imagine too, Kerry Caven saying that so-and-so, we don't know if he's going to make it or not, but keep praying. And then you don't know anything for another 2 or 3 months, whether he lived or died. You did have to trust God. Or when the man would say, I've got to go into town, honey, it's going to take me a week, and I'll see you in a week. So now she's got to handle all the cattle, all the horse, all the feed, all the weather, everything that goes on by herself. And, so you have to rely on God to send angels. Somebody passing through is willing to help you fix that fence that fell apart and all the chickens are trying to get out. And I don't know, you know what I'm saying? And they had to be a lot of reliance on God. And I believe angels showed up. I do. I really do.
Yeah. You have to think that they had to do a lot of meditation and going within and controlling their emotions.
Yes.
Here today people don't control their emotions.
Just what I was wanting to
Right.
talk
Wow.
about. Yeah.
You know, there's like, well, they want things now, 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 now. You know, it's like, come on, relax. You know, like let's see this play out.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
remember a while back, I was watching, it was about, I'd say 18 or 19 years ago. It was when Fox News was really coming on the scene when I met Angela. And I remember hearing this beep beep, and I was like, what's that? You know, and I went in, it was a TV, and it was Fox News. You know, they were training us. You know, they had a guy hanging from a ladder, you know, on a building, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, and I'm watching it. So we go back in the other room. This is when it just started. It goes beep, 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 you know, alert. And we go back in there, and
What's that?
there's a big fire
Emergency?
going somewhere. Yeah, there's lots of that now, but it's even worse now. Now it's programming. I mean, it's always been programming, but
iPhones ding all the time.
it's just
Ding, 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 ding.
we don't even know. I'm just so glad you've simplified down, you
Me
know,
too, Dan. Me
and
too.
you know you've talked about the silence, getting in the silence as a form of prayer.
Yeah.
I don't think people really. I guess you could call prayer praying to Jesus or Jehovah or whatever, but I'm like you, and Angela's like you. We've gotten more out of being still, and it sounds more like spirit and truth as opposed to some God. You know, I don't know. I probably shouldn't talk about it because I have a negativity toward the fear that I was in when I was a Jehovah's Witness. That Jehovah was so angry, he was so jealous, he's gonna, you know, he could kill this person, let this person go. I never understood Old Testament, New Testament. There was a form of schizophrenia in there, you know, and what Jesus said, and what this said. And so I came to the conclusion that Watchtower made up this God, or somebody did, because it doesn't represent God. When I look out in nature, I see the sun coming up every day. I see the trees blowing. We planted some flowers the other day underneath near the snow a little bit, and they're pushing up right on time. They're like on a timetable, and the seasons are just in order. And
Yeah,
you know,
regardless of the crazy winds and the crazy weird weather we're having here in Idaho, it has its own little time clock. It's the most amazing thing. It's like a faithful, faithful God that causes everything to do just exactly what it's supposed to do on time. I'm so touched by that. I really, really am. Well, you know, you guys were already at that hour already, but I
want to say one more
yeah,
thing.
go ahead, honey.
I want to say this. We heard a guy the other day that literally healed himself from being crippled. And it was his whole attitude that changed everything. And the guy asked him in this interview, he says, how, you know, as Angela started to talk about it, I think at the beginning, the guy was doing some special flip. It was almost like a Dan Millman movie, The Peaceful Warrior, but the guy was going to do some flip nobody's ever done, and he'd done it a few times. Well, he went to do it in front of somebody, and he went up so many feet, and he landed on his head and broke his spine to pieces, you know, and all this stuff. Anyway, long story short, he said his attitude was that happened for him instead of to him. And I thought, wow, you know, if we thought that everything in the universe was happening for us, you know, like Kerry Kay and you were saying, circumstances, if you haven't had enough and you want to feel more scared, just keep on, you know, the TV channel and the news and you know, all the social media platforms, and you know, and you'll kind of be in that frame of mind, you know.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well,
can I say
Yeah.
something on that to go along with what you're saying there, Dan? That's how I feel now about my situation and my experiences. I feel as my past happened for me.
oh, cool.
With you. And that is a really good healing thing for other people who are coming out and they're having a hard time. Have a change your mind and say, that experience within that organization or whatever you're coming out of happened for you because it helped you grow.
Right.
It become the person you are. It's a change. You need to change your mind about it.
Right.
Change your mind, then you can have peace.
You know,
And
that took me a long time
It's a secret
to think of that, because I didn't have that attitude for a long time. I was like, what good was this? What good was this? I was in this crazy religion, and
Which is like a victim.
why? Yeah, I was a victim. It was, why did God put me through this? Why? But you know, like I say, now I can sit back and I see everybody else is in the same boat. And what they do with it is going to be either overcome you know, what does it say? What don't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
But I look out and I think, when I got out of Jehovah's Witnesses and I look back, everyone was jumping up and down. I'm a Christian, I'm a this. And all I could think of was boxes. I just looked around and I said, my God, look at all these boxes. You think you're just four things, you know, as a Christian? You think this personage that's made in God's image and likeness is limited by a religious idea of Christianity or Jehovah's Witnesses or Buddhism or any of them? We're not limited by that. We're infinite beings. I believe we're in infinite consciousness with infinite possibilities, untapped infinite possibilities.
Well, a good example is that story that Dan just said. So that guy, you know, he was used to seeing the things that he would do in the gymnastics thing, the vault and stuff, over and over again, using his mind to see himself doing it before he did it. And that's why he was really special. He could do some things that no one else in the country could do, just like Dan Millman in The Peaceful Warrior. It was a very similar story. It's crazy. But he was in traction for a very, very long time. And he had nothing better to do than to see how he wanted it played out, how he saw his body just healing itself. And he just saw himself doing the gymnastics again and visualized it and every kind of thing he was going to do. And he got out and he over and over and over again. He said 24/7. And that changed his whole life, because now, still to this day, he's in the habit of not letting his mind just have its own way where it goes negative all the time. But he's used to visualizing what he wants to see. And you know, his body first one half healed, and then God caused it to be, because he kept on saying, well, if God healed that part, then he's going to heal the other part too. And even though it took several months more,
So, come on, hands, move.
Yeah.
And he would just throw them around like this. He couldn't do anything.
But you never know how God's going to do it. He caused it to be that the very guy that he was rebelling against, because the guy was saying, well, you're going to be crippled for life and all this. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm not buying that. And he was only 21 or something.
And you want to know what's crazy? I got to say this. After he got healed, I mean, of being totally crippled, he says, I'm going to do that again. And he did it. You know what I mean?
Did.
He went
just,
and did
just
the
like
same
he
result.
visualized
And we're
it.
like, oh my
you know,
God.
I know, and his coach is like, get out of the class,
throw him out.
because I don't want you to kill yourself again. But the thing is that literally, you don't know how God's going to do it, because the second half of the body, his arms wouldn't move for a long time. But that one, God caused it to be that. I think that same guy who was, you know, saying you can't, said, oh my gosh, something's happened. And, you know, your spine used to be like this. And somehow that vertebra turned this way. And if you have the most slightest, somebody hit you on the head, you're going to be paralyzed from head to foot again. And so your legs are not going to work again. And he's like, oh my God, I don't believe this is happening. I heard I've been believing in God to heal all this stuff. Now I have to go get a surgery. What? But he goes ahead and agrees to it. And you know something? Somehow that straightened everything out. And all of a sudden, not very long after, his hands started working again. And then he was able to start building back. And because of that surgery. And so that was the pathway God had, involving other people. Maybe the same doctor, he told him that you will never, and it's like, oh yes, I will. And so he showed him that if you have belief and you can see it happening, our minds are powerful. Like we said, when the witnesses and the worldwiders were told we're pieces of shit, you know, but the truth is that our minds are powerful. They're God-given. They're super smart, and God wants us to use them. And we can change our whole world if we'll just change our mind and see something different than what we're already seeing. And I'm working on that. I'm not where I want to be at all, but I'm working it. And I have bad days and good days where I just want to be, you know, in the pit. I try to, no, I'm not going to be in the pit. No, and I'll at least try to say the positive things, but I still feel kind of, you know, but I'll say the positive things anyway. And, you know, like you said in the beginning, Kerry Kay, there's good and there's bad days, you know. You go back, you go 3 steps forward, you know, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 3 steps back. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that happens. I call it the dance. But
yeah, the dance. And then sometimes people will trigger you, or something will trigger you, and you have a bad day. Or you think, oh, I should be further along than I am. But then a little humbleness needs to come into play and say, well, this is happening for me, not to me, like you were saying, Dan. And then you're like, okay, and then something will happen and you get a little whisper, a little whisper that you're right where you need to be.
Yeah.
Always.
Have you ever felt like you didn't get an answer? Have you ever had a time where it seemed like a week goes by or 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you're not getting a
Those-
connection or something?
Yes, and that just means it's not the right time.
Amen.
Just wait and be patient because there's a lesson going on.
Yes. Amen. That's what that guy who broke his neck that way, he kind of saw how when you choose to see it that way, everything's happening for me, and the world is for me and not against me, and God is for me and not against me, then he could see the good in everything. He could see, and he could have hope, and just knowing that. And so now he connects all these things that he used to think was bad when he was a kid, and it's like, and now I see how that was good, that my foster father, or not foster father, my adopted father did this and did that. I see how that helped me now. And he sees it, instead of that we don't see anything. Like when I'm thankful all the time, I notice that I see more good things, and more of the good things start happening because I am being thankful. And the more I look for the Thanksgiving, the more I see more things, and it's like that. And if you choose to not go down that road, you just miss the blessings because your mind won't look at them or see them or believe that they're there for us, or believe that the world's for us and not against us, the universe is for us and not against us, and God, it's mindset. We can miss a lot if we don't let our mind go in the positive. That's why I wanted to talk about going positive, and so anyway, any last thoughts?
I think I'm good.
I think this has been wonderful, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming
Yeah,
on,
thank
Kerry
you for
K.
coming on. I
Great
just think these
artist.
are things that everybody considers, and am I praying? Am I negative? Am I too much? How much is enough? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we kind of,
I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. Am I to talk about Dan's book, Surrender? This might be showing up backwards, but this is Surrender, Your Key to the Kingdom Within. And because Dan and I and Kerry K believe that the God presence, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, is within us, and it's the kingdom of God, it says in the Bible, is within you and at hand, it says. So anyway, it's a great and powerful book. If you're wanting to overcome, this is along the line of what we're talking about today. It really is, by Dan Clark, and he wrote about his journey to get free, where he's at now.
awakening from the witnesses.
Eyewitness, the shocking insider's story of Jehovah's Witnesses. And then maybe not on those. You want to show that one? Okay.
That's the last one, the divine order of alchemy, the taking the union with God.
Yeah.
I remember that one. Yeah. I will read yours.
Yeah, and that's just it's a neat journey through the tabernacle in the wilderness, which you could call it the temple within the tabernacle.
It's an esoteric journey through the tabernacle, which is a Rosicrucian perspective. It was based on some of Max Heindel's work on you're the lamb at the altar. You surrender to God. The smoke represents the stench coming off you. The lavers represent prayer and meditation. Cool. And that's a second stage. The entry into the tabernacle or the kingdom within was a surrendered state. And then it was the prayer and meditation. The laver was full of mirrors, and it would reflect back to you things that needed to be changed. Then you moved into the selfless service, which was the showbread. And the showbread, after you got into selfless service, kicked off the incense, which was a wonderful odor that went up to heaven, which kicked on the Shekinah lights. And then finally, divine union, when you came through the tabernacle, was I and the Father are one. You was in the divine union. So it wasn't a priest doing it for you. It was the journey we're all on, but it was a metaphysical journey of the tabernacle.
That we're all in and always in all the time. But anyway, then this book, now don't freak out about the eyeball. It's nothing creepy. There's a man and a woman whose their backs are to each other and their arms are folded because they're mad at each other. So anyway, this is called Awakening from Unconscious Resentment. So anyway, it's learning to uncover the hidden saboteurs that are hindering your life and relationships, like what we were talking about today. So if you want to get free, it also does talk, though, I just want to be honest, about a second cult that I was in that about got me killed, that about made me dead. But and I do talk about it because that's where my resentment was all at, that I had to overcome. And it's where I learned my life lessons, because I was at my bottom, my, very bottom. And that's where that happened for me, in a secondary cult that I was in. So to just be honest, that's in that book, but also my upbringing, and then just all these wonderful stories of people overcoming, that I break things down using these great stories. So anyway, if any of those are interesting to you, check them out. They're all on Amazon. And Kerry K, you got anything you want to say in that regard? You got something coming out, right?
I'm actually just working on some things, so in the future.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, one more thing
In the
too.
future.
We have
In the future.
secret brainwashing techniques of Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's Kindle only right now. Oh, wrong side. Anyway,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So anyway,
Got a guy hanging from the watchtower.
that's funny.
That was just funny, we did.
Yeah, crazy little cover. But anyway, it's Kindle only. And it's got some really great helps. Like I've got a chapter in my book in it from the book I just showed you too, that is just the helps that you need to get out of this crazy network of brainwashing, and how they hooked you exactly, and ways that we see you can get out, and some great resources are in here. So if that's of interest and that you think that might help you, great little book. So again, on Kindle only though. So, well, thank you for joining us, Kerry K.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone. And we hope that you enjoy our show tonight. All right.
All right.
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.